you here with us tonight. I am Loveless from Call to Reason. Big Bama fan this week, of course. We got a national championship coming up in about 5 days. Looking forward to seeing the Tide roll. But we want to welcome everyone to Call to Reason's CTR on the Side, our podcast that we do uh, twice a week usually. And we are here. Beth is actually in Europe, still on holiday for another couple of days, but I think she'll be back with us tomorrow for our Thirsty Thursday edition of CTR on the Side. But I wanted to pay tribute to her anyway and just say, Chin Chin Beth. Listen, everyone, we've got a lot to discuss today. And I won't hold you long, but I just want to thank our sponsor, just right off the top, Keishi, the Zuni Connection, and the Keishi Foundation for what they do to help support this podcast. And want to let you know that if you have a business, a corporation, a cause, and want to get the word out to a global audience, Call to Reason is a great way to reach common sense folk who are all about living in a me and you world, not the me or you world that certain folk are trying to get us to live in. Want to say welcome to everyone who has joined us. Thank you for being here on Call to Reason's CTR on the Side Wednesday edition. We're going to be back tomorrow with Beth, hopefully. She's been in Europe on vacation, but we're going to do our Thirsty Thursday as well tomorrow. Anyway, a lot of stuff to cover, y'all. As you know, President Obama, you may or may not know, but President Obama held his first cabinet meeting today of the year, and he made some very, very bizarre statements. Made some very, very untrue statements, still claiming that parts of the wall he's got under construction, and he made a very just ridiculous excuse for why he hasn't spent the 1.3 trillion that he got, that he had 1.6 trillion he hadn't spent. He claims that he spent it, but he hadn't been paying the contractors who are building the wall and doing the work because they hadn't finished the job. And it's only after they finished the wall that so he's saying that he's using the whole 1.6 billion that was allocated for border security, not for a wall, but for border security. He somehow hadn't spent it because they hadn't finished building his sections of the wall, and he's got wall under construction. Folks, none of that is even remotely connected to reality or what is the truth or what's actually happening or what's going on. So I just think it's important to do these podcasts, just to slow down, because we're, fast paced on Sunday trying to cover it all. It's important to just tackle a couple of issues during these podcasts where you can really understand that none of that is true. Everything he said in the cabinet meeting, completely untrue. It's also untrue that he, as he said, essentially fired James Mattis. Nope. So sorry, folks. So sorry. Totally untrue. If you haven't already, please go to the Call to Reason Reality Talk Radio group page. Just scroll down. Hit inside the page, hit search for Mattis, and you'll find the article that says that where you can read General Mattis's resignation letter handed to the president during their 45-minute meeting in the White House, which the president didn't plan on receiving, I'm sure, but was widely distributed and, of course, in no way indicates that he was fired by Donald Trump. What is reality, though, that all the generals that were surrounding him at the beginning of his administration are gone. They've either resigned, been fired, or been indicted criminally. But all gone nonetheless. And that should be the point. When you can't hold on to any military generals and you're the commander-in-chief of the United States, I think it says something about you that should alarm the nation. And if it doesn't, you might be a cult member in reality. So that's a little bit of a red pill reality check, though, folks. 1.6 billion, they hadn't spent barely any of it, less than 6%. And it's now come up with this cockamamie ass excuse, all connected to the wall, for which not a nickel of that money is authorized or appropriated. Every dime is for something else, and he hasn't done anything else. Why hasn't he done anything else? Because he has no plan. His only plan is a wall that actually will do a little, but it certainly won't be the panacea, or, oh, we got a wall, now our border's secure. No way. Not with 6,000 miles of tunnels under the border. It's the hashtag now. Let's make it hot, y'all. It's the tunnels, stupid. Hashtag. It's the tunnels, stupid. Pass it around. Because that's what's really going on in reality. And that's all we promise here on Call to Reason. And by the way, if you're just joining us, you're on Call to Reason's CTR on the Side podcast. This is a Wednesday edition. And I'm here by myself right now. If you're watching on Facebook and you want to be a part of the conversation, make a request to join on camera, and we will let your voice be heard on camera if you'd like to be here and add your face and voice to the conversation. Would love to be in conversation because we'd like to have conversation with America. So if you'd like to be on, just make that request or make a comment where I can read it, and we'll bring you in. Same thing goes for Instagram if you like. If you want to be a part of the conversation, come in, join on in, and we'll split screen you. But folks, let me just say, Trump is full of shit. He's lying about this wall. He's lying, but now Nancy Pelosi will be the speaker tomorrow, and it's going to be a whole nother ball game. The unfortunate news is that Donald Trump's stubbornness and his being held hostage by the right wing, the Ann Coulters, the Rush Limbaughs, the Laura Ingrams of the world, Sean Hannity's of the world. Trump knows that if he doesn't deliver the wall he's promised, he's essentially going to get nothing. His base, his cult is going to start dwindling, much like Mussolini's cult did, and Hitler's. It's going to collapse. So he's going to hold out, and unfortunately, he's going to hold out the paychecks of $800,000, and that number is going to start growing here in another week or so, as more federal agencies and more operations begin to shut down because of lack of funding. The number could grow, they're estimating, as high as 1 million. And so with 1 million people out of work, a lot of whom, let me remind everyone, are federal contractors who won't be getting the back pay, those folks, they're just not going to, it's like being unemployed. They need to start drawing unemployment. These, contractors, they have to go and apply for unemployment and get a fraction of their pay while this government shutdown goes on. Federal employees aren't getting anything. They have to wait for back pay. And it's a complete farce over 215 miles, essentially, of wall that do not in any way represent complete border security. Not even measurable border security, as compared to all the tunnels over everything he's going to build or wants to build. And one more reminder, everyone, no wall is currently being built that has been funded by the federal government since Donald Trump became president. Not an inch. Not a single inch. Everything he says about it, everything he says about this construction going on, he's supervising, he hadn't spent the $1.6 billion because they hadn't finished building the wall. You don't pay people before they finish. I mean, he sounds just like his language today in that cabinet meeting, folks. Let me remind everyone. That language today he used about paying contractors, not paying contractors, when you pay contractors. This is all the same language he used that has gotten him sued so many times in the Trump organization construction projects, because he's known to cheat people who have done the work out of their money. And he's even talking about now running the government that way. Are you for real? Wow. So anyway, if you're just joining us, want to welcome everyone to Call to Reason's CTR on the Side podcast. This is a Wednesday edition, and we're very happy to be here. I see all of you all here on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. if you're watching and you want to be on the video on Instagram or Facebook, all you got to do is send the request and I'll add you in. And you can let your voice be heard in this conversation. I'm going to move it on a bit, though, while we're all here. Cover a couple of other stories related to his cabinet meeting. Of course, we know he met with Democrats and Republican leaders today in the White House Situation Room. He wanted to meet where it's a crisis situation, national security. He had people from the Border Security and Homeland Security and ICE there to make the case to the Democrats why the wall was so important and why they had to stop denying him his $5.6 billion for his wall. It's gone from $5 billion to 5.6, by the way. And he's saying that, you just got to have it. He's making all these foolish analogies and comparisons, and he's pulling at straws. And he keeps insisting, ladies and gentlemen, because, of course, people like us and all other kind of common sense reasons, but probably you too, just in your mind, often ask, I thought Mexico was paying for the wall. Yeah, that comes up a lot. And he kind of senses that. So he keeps coming up with these cockamamie excuses about how Mexico is paying through the wall through the trade deal, and which hasn't been ratified by Congress, by the way, so that doesn't exist in reality. Even if it did, all the savings, whatever there may be, would go into the pockets of the businesses that do trade across those borders, not the general treasury to build Trump's wall. In no way are there any savings for the American government that would go into the general fund that could be authorized and appropriated for Trump's wall. That whole thing is a complete farcical lie that just sounds good to the cult members and other dumbass people who don't read and have basic common sense, who just refuse to get themselves informed at least on the basics of reality. Like, wow, how could you not? I mean, how could you even believe that bullshit? But a lot of people do. But I'm here to tell you, because this is what we have to do, is spread the word around. That's just false. So you spread that word around. By the way, speaking of spreading around, if you want to, hit that share button right now while you can. Spread the word. Let everybody know what we're doing. And if you're just getting here, we want to say thank you so much to all of you for being here. You're on Call of Reason's CTR on the Side Wednesday episode of our podcast. And this is going to be a good time to say thank you so much and give a big shout out to the sponsor of this podcast, Keishi, the Zuni Connection, and the Keishi Foundation. Wonderful art, been around since 1981, supporting the art and sustainability of the art and of the people of the Zuni Pueblo. Keishi has awesome artifacts, not artifacts, but just awesome pieces, all kinds of jewelry, all kinds of pottery, kachinas, paintings, you name it. You just can't get more quality, handmade, personally one-of-a-kind, handcrafted items. These are not copies. They're not replicas. You can't get 5 of each one. These are pieces put together with pure love, total quality, a New Mexico treasure, and the work of the Zuni Foundation will help keep that alive and expanding in cross-cultural sharing for years to come, along with preserving lost and dying arts and lost and dying disciplines inside those arts. So we hope that you'll check them out. They're right there on Don Diego Street, right there in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And it's actually Don Gaspar Avenue. Santa Fe is a small town. You think I know my streets. But The best way to do it, especially since a lot of you are watching online, not even here in Santa Fe, is just to go to kshi.com and check out the kshifoundation.org. You won't be disappointed, and I guarantee you'll get a good deal on some awesome stuff if you check it out. We want to move on. I'm going to move on real quick just to a couple of other topics that have popped up. As we know, tomorrow, the big day, Nancy Pelosi will become Speaker. The Democrats will regain control of the House of Representatives, and all hell is going to break loose. So we can't wait to see what kind of legislation put down. I hope the Democrats do more legislating and governing than investigating, because there are some real issues that I know the American people agree on, the majority of us, that if the Democrats can just put down one by one as bills, so we as the people can see what we really do believe in and watch how the Republicans handle what we want, make it a lot easier for us to all vote in a way that flushes out the remainder of Trump's cult in Congress, so that we can get some governing going on again while we get rid of him too. And folks, I'm not advocating for the Democrats. In fact, I'm recommending that we, as Team Red Pill, join in the national movement we're creating through our PAC, MA3 Patriots. We're going to make America America again. And I'm recommending that we elect 10 new members to Congress that are pure independents, not registered as Republicans or Democrats or any political party. Complete independent, elected to Congress. That starts with you. All you got to do is start identifying people who you know everyone thinks would be a great idea for Congress. Get them to run as an independent, and you personally and 10 of your friends organize the people. 10 of you can inspire 100 more collectively to get out there and elect yourself an independent to Congress. Start with your county commission if you're not confident in Congress. Start with your city council. Start with your school board. But let's get independents elected, because they can hold both political parties accountable when they're just doing their, sell out to the corporations and sell us all down the river mess. We can, without the corporate money, by simply rallying our neighbors and showing them just how their lives depend on what we do next, we can totally elect some independents at every level of government, including Congress. We ought to get 2 in the United States Senate as well. Why? Because then we'd have 3 in the Senate, 10 in the House. Neither side would have the power to caucus a majority and take over the leadership without consulting with and getting the votes of those independents. That is the check that we need on that check and balance in government, ladies and gentlemen. Prove me wrong. And who says we can't? Sure we can. So let's give it a shot, shall we? Anyway, wanted to welcome you all here to Call the Reasons CTR on the Side podcast. This is our Wednesday edition. Beth is missing today because she's still in Europe on her holiday. Boo-hoo, Beth. Anyway, I'm here with you, and I just wanted to cover a couple of issues that I think you all want to talk about, want to hear about. And welcome everyone that's here. Hit the share button if you haven't already, and let everyone know that we're here. And we've got a couple of other issues that I just wanted to jump on real quick. Listen, you know how I feel about the Jesus Industrial Complex. And here I'm looking at a story that says Jerry Falwell claims that any evangelical Christian who does not support Trump is immoral. I'll just leave that right there, y'all. That's that Jesus Industrial Complex. Also, back to the Congress. Yes, Nancy Pelosi will be the Speaker tomorrow. She said clearly last week, 2 weeks ago, yesterday, today, coming out of the meeting with President Trump, he will never get the votes for a wall in the House of Representatives. He just won't get them. They will never vote to give him that wall. His response is, well, I'm never going to reopen the government. So it's possible. It's actually possible. Of course, I don't want to be the one to say I'm predicting it. I'm just saying based on, I mean, if you just approach this scientifically, even in the least, and not everyone is a scientist, so I'm not trying to make it too hard for anyone. But if you just look at your basic logic, like if you had something going on with your car on the side of the road, you pull up the hood, you would go through some basic reasoning, basic deduction to try to get yourself back on the road, particularly if you're stranded. So just imagine something like that. So just basic logic. Now, I don't think under normal circumstances it would be possible at all that the government could remain shut down until the 2020 election. Now, why would I even recommend something that outrageous? Why would I even suggest that something that outrageous could even be possible? Well, because my common sense tells me Donald Trump is that desperate to keep his base, and he knows that his cult is stupid enough to go without jobs for the next 2 years, at the federal level at least, in order to support his foolishness, because that's all he's got. And his ego and his narcissism and his complete lack of empathy for other people is just enough to make him literally just never give Mitch McConnell the go-ahead on anything other than something he knows he'll never get from the Democrats. And the Democrats will continue to legislate and continue to pass bill after bill, and Mitch McConnell will continue to refuse to even call a vote in the Senate on those bills. He'll do like he did Merrick Garland. He'll, stand on his principles. That's right on his principles. And he will literally treat Nancy Pelosi like he did Obama and not allow anything to go through the Senate until some of the Republican senators start to revolt. Because, see, what Mitch McConnell is not betting on, and what Donald Trump isn't betting. And again, folks, do I think it's possible that the government can actually stay closed? Could actually stay closed for the next 2 years? If the answer is, will Donald Trump move up off that wall, even to kick the can down the road for another 6 months or just this year and have duke it out in 2020, would he do that until September? I don't know. If we're looking at his ego, if we're looking at his previous moves, I'd say it's possible, probably not probable, but would I rule out entirely the government being closed until the 2020 election? No, I would not, given Donald Trump's ego. Just as a pure scientific deduction, I'd have to put some odds on him being so egomaniacal that he would refuse to, sign anything other than his wall for the next 2 years. And he'd be willing to throw people's paychecks and lives under the bus just to hang on to his cult that hard. I do. So we'll see what happens starting tomorrow. The real conversations will begin tomorrow, and we'll see how it unfolds, but it's a clusterfuck right now. Just wanted to remind you all that you are here on the podcast, and Beth is on vacation still. If you'd like to join the conversation, you want to be on camera with me right now, split screen on Instagram or Facebook, all you got to do is send the request, and I will bring you in. Any of you good old political junkies who want to be involved, and concerned citizens. I read an article that I found was troubling, and I see we've got a veteran on right now, Brother Michael Lawrence, the great former Marine and public servant. He's a Democratic Party committee person, Cobb County in Georgia. Very, very, very active in the Democratic Party. Mike, you're a veteran, and I'm glad to see you here, brother. Good to see you too, Charles Edwards, my Southern University from Southern U. Good to see you, Charles. Mike, yes. if you want to come on camera right now, bro, you sure can. And Rashad, if you were here, I would love for you to come on camera right now. Thank you, brother Rashad Richard, for coming in, because we're talking about something that's really important. And Michael Owens is here with us too, Rashad. And listen, I just saw a story that says veterans support Trump. 60%, 6 in 10 veterans support Trump. And my question is, why in the hell would they do that? When you look at how Trump has treated veterans, and as I've said, I'm not going on the radio and I'm not going to podcast again until something is done without it. I will bring this up every single time until all of y'all raise enough hell for those mother in Congress to do something about it. 6.7 million fiscal year 2018 just finished, allocated for veteran suicide prevention. Trump spends $57,000 out of that. As a result, veteran suicides, what do? They go up. That's not cool, y'all. These are people, everybody talks about how much we love our military, how much we love our veterans. Oh, I love my veterans. I love veterans. Well, if you're not raising hell at your congressperson and your senator to get Trump to explain why that Office of Veteran Suicide Prevention went without a director and a deputy for 9 months, just to show you how dysfunctional our government is. No, it's not great again. America's not great again. And the only reason why the swamp is not full is because Trump hasn't even appointed a huge bulk of the jobs that are vital to governing this country, including the Office of Suicide Prevention for Veterans. Just to give you a scope, ladies and gentlemen, by comparison, 2015, President Obama had a similar amount of money, spent it all, and ran over 15,000 radio commercials from coast to coast, encouraging veterans to get support and giving them all the information they needed to get it. Just 3 years ago, 15,000 plus commercials. In 2018, we had 8. No, not 8,000, folks. 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 8. That's what we had in 2018. But Donald Trump is quick to say, oh, I love veterans. Oh, I love veterans so much. I love them. I just love the veterans. I'm all about the veterans. Well, really? How so? Tell me more. I don't think so, folks. That's a red pill reality check that we're going to just keep hammering until somebody gets it. Donald Trump, during his cabinet meeting today, once again, completely misstated what the real cost of illegal immigration is. And I'll direct you to a story I just put up on the Call of Reason Reality Talk Radio group page for you to check that out. A lot of great information there about what the truth really is. I can just tell you that he's overblowing it by a lot. And you should know that. Another red pill reality check. Due to this pace of national debt growth that this borrow and binge Republican Congress put us on with the tax sham, the national debt will soon outgrow the actual size of our economy. Now, again, not looking for everybody to be a genius. Everyone doesn't have to be Einstein or Descartes or any other great mathematician. But, you know, there's a thing called the yield curve in the bond market. And whenever there is an inversion, meaning it goes upside down, meaning it's costing you money to own the bond, that's called an inversion in the yield curve. When that happens, that's a recession usually hits pretty within a year from that. In fact, ever since there's been a yield curve, whenever it's inverted, there's been a recession within a year historically. That's very close to happening now, along with all these other economic indicators, like the way the borrow and binge Republican Congress drove up the national debt and deficit. So if you have a deficit of $1 trillion, meaning you're having to borrow all that to just pay your bills, and then your debt is growing at an alarming rate, and your credit rating then gets lowered, so the cost of money goes up. When a recession hits and you've got a debt this big and a deficit as big as it is, and people, folks, this is a formula for the next Great Depression. That's a red pill reality check I think everyone needed to be aware of. And one other little nugget that is so funny, Donald Trump claims that he fired his Secretary of Defense now, and that he feels like he probably would have been a really good general himself. That's laughable at best. Oh, another breaking red pill reality check. Under the Kremlin's direction, Paul Manafort lobbied a U.S. ally to close a U.S. military base that's essential to our mission in Afghanistan, which means Paul Manafort took money from and orders from the Kremlin to betray the United States' best interest. And then you wonder why, how he is not been charged with treason as well. And perhaps he may be before all this is said and done, particularly since he's been lying continuously still and being uncooperative. Who knows what's going to happen? But if Donald Trump tries to pardon a traitor, I think the country is going to backlash quite a lot more. So anyway, I think this is a good place to let it go for the night. Beth is going to be joining me later this week. She is actually still on holiday in Europe. And I'm like, boo-hoo, Beth. You're going from Germany to Austria to Prague to Italy. And I think she's stopping in France on her way back. Poor thing. But we'll see her soon, and she'll tell us all about her great trip. In the meantime, we'll be back tomorrow for sure with Call to Reason's CTR on the side, our Thirsty Thursday edition. I hope we'll have Beth back with us then, but if not, we'll definitely have her on the radio on Sunday morning. By the way, if you're not aware, that's every Sunday. We're on the radio on Talk 1260 and 103.7 KTRC, Santa Fe's news talk leader. And you can also listen to the live stream on santafe.com. Or, of course, you can watch it right here on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And enjoy it that way as well. We'll see you tomorrow. And thanks again to the Keishi, the Zuni Connection, and the Keishi Foundation for your sponsorship. By the way, if you have a small business anywhere in the country and want the word to get out about it, we certainly, Beth and I, are willing to be your brand ambassadors. We'll wear your stuff. We'll talk all about it. And you would not believe what a bargain it is to be a sponsor of this podcast. So inbox me if we're here on social media together, or just send me an email, loveless@santafe.com, and we'll get you signed up and get you promoted as soon as we do. Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Michael. Love everyone. And Mike, anytime you want to be on the show, you can call in as well, brother. We'd love to have you on. Love to have you here on the camera with us, and love to have you on the air on the radio, because we love your perspective. And we hear you might be making a little noise down there in Georgia too, man. We're going to keep an eye on you, brother. In the meantime, everyone, thanks again for being here on Call to Reason's CTR on the side. I'm Loveless, and I'll see you next time. Peace.